Hi, Vin. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, I wanted to get a little bit of your take on Project Success Academy and learn about your original vision and where you see the company going. So, I'd like to start off with if there's one word, what would you use to describe your vision for Project Success Academy?
Yeah, it's so funny. You'd think that that kind of question has a simple answer. Uh, my immediate reaction to what's the one word that describes PSA, Project Success Academy, it's actually conviction. You might think on the surface, oh, it's success. It's about addressing the gap in achieving successful project outcomes. It's actually not. It's about conviction. It's introducing to the whole institution of project management the concept of every project stakeholder literally has a stake in the success of our projects. So when I talk about conviction, when you take on a project is the next evolution, right? It's somebody had a passionate idea, someone had a safety idea, someone had a concern or a need that needed to be fulfilled. And it was going to be done through projects, through creativity, through interaction, through teamwork. And just kind of making that I'll get to it when I get to it. Oh, it's a blase thing, or I have to do this. Well, I understand those are very often relevant and natural reactions to some projects. We've all had them. I've had a few that are, the paperwork projects or the mandates and things like that. I absolutely get it. But finding conviction in what we bring to the craft of project management, such that our stakeholders understand how every part they play is a vital building block towards the success of the outcomes of that project. Okay. So I think Project Success Academy is about conviction. It's conviction of the value and the mission behind a project. It's the conviction of the professional and a professional's career development. Okay. We'll probably talk more in this conversation about how rapidly the industry's changed, not just because of AI, but because of the marketplace. We're seeing big companies make some big decisions around employment and layoffs and things like that. So those impact the working world, and Project Success Academy is trying to be in the forefront of getting professionals relevant again, helping them get found in the career and workplace. So conviction, and we're all about driving, like grab the bull by the horns.
Love that. So I think conviction is a very, very good word to describe things. So when I know it started with conviction, but if you had to boil it back a bit, when you originally started PSA, what was one of the biggest problems that you were trying to solve that gave the company a reason to exist?
Yeah, so Project Success Academy is deliberately different from some of our major providers. And I say that without judgment. I was a trainer with one of the world's larger providers. I know they work very closely with PMI chapters, not just in the United States, but around the world. And they made a positive difference in growing the awareness about project management and the value that PMs bring to the world. But Project Success Academy was founded to take it one step further. I started to find that it was becoming very academic. It was very much about the process and the by the book and the checklists and let's be honest, this counts for me too. Checking the box. Oh, I got my professional development units. I get to renew my credential, right? It was about the papers, about the letters. Now those things are still valuable, and we support those programs as well. In fact, we are an authorized training provider, a premier ATP, in fact, because we value what PMI brings to the global professional space. But taking it one step further, this kind of ties to your first question about conviction. Instead of us just being an academic source for our constituents, for our students, for those who want to grow their career, we wanted to take people who do the work and have them do the training. Right? There's the old joke of those who can't teach. We do the opposite. Those who do teach. Certainly, we have educators on the team that are very, very well seasoned. Um, I guess if you looked at the combined training just in project management, PMP prep alone, I think we've taught over 4,000, maybe even 5,000 students. But we've also brought actual agile practitioners actual professionals who use AI and cutting edge PMOs. We have alliances for certifications outside just PMI, things like Neuroplan, things around the PMO business practitioner. So we're really growing the library of capability for professionals. And this goes back to our mission is really around honing the career of project practitioners. So certainly one could go to other trainers, check the box. Maybe you want to save time and money and just do the needed, check the box, and you get your PDUs, and maybe you even get that credential on your resume. But we are all about taking a step further, having a relationship with each student, with each professional about the direction of their career specific to where they want to take it. Industry, capability, focus area, and then bringing professionals who do that for a living to also be their instructors. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. It makes me curious. And this is a little outside question. It goes to branding strategy too. So I know a little bit about the design behind our brand, but could you tell me a little bit more about that and why that specific design was chosen for Project Success Academy?
Yeah, it is kind of fun when you got to see some of the inner workings of Project Success Academy. Um, yeah, if you're referring to the branding, the theme, and the symbology, that was important to us as well. We worked with a very talented designer, and she came up with the concept of the sunrise logo. And you may have heard the old adage, and I don't know that it's necessarily more than a folk tale, that the Continental Congress, Ben Franklin was with the other founding members of what would become the United States, and they saw the carving of the sunshine on the back of the wooden chairs where they were having the Congress. And someone asked, is that a rising sun or a setting sun? And Ben Franklin said, oh, it's absolutely the rising sun. It's the beginning of something that's going to change the world. And so that symbology of rising energy, new focus, new beginnings on the horizon is quite rightly, I think, where Project Success Academy plays during this age, that inflection point of where AI is changing all of our jobs, changing the way we do business, changing the way we learn, and frankly, giving us opportunities to really hone our career and achieve a new level of excellence because we can be more of the humanity behind project management than the mechanics. Those can be automated. And so we want to be a part of that journey. It's a new day. It's a new era. I know people have been likened it this time to an industrial revolution or the internet revolution. We just wanted to be on the leading edge of that. And that's where that symbology comes from.
Actually, I never knew that story, so that's very cool. And even sunrise versus sunset, I've always found it interesting that the term sunsetting is used so widely in
Mm,
technology and replacing legacy systems and upgrading and things of that nature.
right?
That was something I had to learn years ago because when I first heard it, sunset, what are y'all talking about?
Right.
So I really appreciate you sharing the origin and the symbolism behind that. So, question for you. So, I know that you have had affiliations in the past with other training companies, and you've worked in a lot of different big organizations that I'm sure have done their own level of training. Had you had much experience in those trainings with more of the humanity and the real world stories behind it, or has it really just primarily been checking the box in the process?
Yeah. I mean, help me dive into your question. Are we
Okay.
exploring the more personal aspects of the education journey? Yeah,
So maybe the more personal aspects, because I think some of those things that happen to us in our past roles, lives, and jobs definitely influence who we become and why we make the decisions that we make.
that's right.
So were there great storytellers that you had ever had as trainers, or was it more of there was a lack of that in the space, so you took ownership of creating it?
I think we're all forged by um, our journey in our past. Believe it or not, I've been very fortunate that for most of my career, while it was in IT technology and IT transformations, I was fortunate enough to work with employers that were willing to invest in training, both internally, and then they would also pay for training courses, as long as I helped shape the direction and relevance of that training for myself and my peers. When we had PMOs and things like that. So I'm very fortunate that my they were, to be fair, larger consulting firms and things like that understood the importance of honing the skills, the craft of their consulting team members. Always had some great stories. I know myself, I always like getting back. I'm a longtime volunteer with Project Management Institute, among other volunteer agencies. And sometimes that manifested in, lunch and learns, breakout tables, right, workshop tables, or even public speaking, training in public and things like that. And then eventually even being a PMI trainer for PMP courses and other things. So having had, I don't know, I think it was volunteerism, seeing how it would help other people grow their career, lead more projects to success, hone their leadership skills, share war stories with other students and other trainers. That was a big part. I mean, I guess this is closer to answering your question. Is some of my greatest joys were as an instructor, having the classroom, those students tell their stories, their real world stories, um, both the scary ones and the victories. I think those help shape the nature of how we would teach. And certainly I could use those stories for anecdotes and examples. But I think, we're humans are, we're really intrigued by stories, right? What do they call that? The campfire phenomenon. I mean, you know this very, very well. You're an excellent storyteller yourself. There's something in us that's wired to be captivated by the stories. And it's because of both being a student, a longtime student, being asked to then volunteer, and then finally formally becoming a trainer, that I realize how important they are. And so, and this may be where you're going with this, we make sure that we bake that experience into the Project Success Academy in all of our material, right? One, for relatability. Two, because man, it can be dry. I mean, let's be honest, like anything else, it can be dry. So why not throw in
Right.
some interest? Um, and I think the most important one also is storytelling doesn't have to be one direction. It can be a dialogue. And we invite that too. I think one of the things we can get to in the conversation, Tanya, is we're not talking at students, right? We're not just working with students, but there is an expectation that students not only participate, but that you will lead. You'll actually leverage the skills that you're practicing in some of these courses. So we're excited about the future of where not just that approach is going to take us, but the technology that's going to make that a more natural experience for students.
Correct. So it does segue nicely. So I've got two different questions in mind. Before I dive into the AI component and how that's reshaping the experience, I'd like to just hear it from you on who is the ideal Project Success Academy student? What skills, what mindset, what traits do you think students need to possess to really get the most out of their learning and professional development journey?
Yeah, that's people. I think people underestimate the power of that kind of question. What kind of student is a PSA student? And you would think, hey, you're in business, you'll take anybody. It's absolutely not the case. If you're the kind of person, again, who just wants to watch a recording, click a few quiz buttons, get your certificate, get your PDUs, that's not what we're about. I don't begrudge you that, but you can get that with a Udemy or some of the other more widely known platforms. No, we're actually looking for a relationship, right? We're looking for project success practitioners. We're looking for people who are serious about truly learning the skills and then applying the skills. Certainly, yes, we'll have labs and webinars and PDU opportunities, and we'll engage with local chapters to bring great speakers or great material to students. But we're really looking for those that are in it to transform themselves, and this is where it gets interesting, possibly transform others. So part of this mechanism of Project Success Academy is our involvement with the consulting side of the business called Corbo. Corbo Tech is a technology forward project management PMO implementation consulting firm. Okay. In fact, it was the excellence of the delivery of the Corbo team, the consulting team, that gave rise to the academy. Right? We were talking earlier about having the people who do it teach it. That comes from, in great part, from the team at Corbo and the Corbo consulting team. And so why that matters is if I'm a student for PSA, am I the kind of person who just wants to learn management techniques, learn the book? That's great. You can do that. You can also do that, many other providers. But do I want to put them into practice? Do I want to be challenged? Right? Do I want higher interaction? And do I want to crack at maybe some work opportunities or some leads? And so part of it is, are you a driven professional? Are you willing to take honest feedback about where you are in your career? And then who knows? By working with that sort of partner consulting firm, are there opportunities out there through networks, through people you know, possibly through the consulting firm? I'm not trying to sell jobs. We can't do that. We can't control that necessarily. We're not a staffing firm, but we are looking for people that are like, you know what? Being good isn't good enough. That's a Project Success Academy student. Does that answer your question?
That does. That does. And I understand that very, very well. I mean, I think it drives back to the ownership and accountability and not just taking a test for the acronyms that go behind your name for the hope that you might be beat an ATS system. I think it dives much deeper to that when you really start talking about professional development and growth. And to me, it starts with asking questions, taking ownership, taking accountability for your own success too. Um,
Look, let
so
me
what
interject on
about
that.
sure.
Really quick, Tony, I love that you said that, asking questions. You made me think of it. Another ideal, if you're right now, somehow you see this video and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not one of those, or like, gosh, I wonder if I'm one of those. If you're even asking the question, just like you said, if you even ask the question, maybe you're in the military and you're in transition right into the private space, or to getting looking for a new career job in the project management world. Um, that's for you because you're asking questions. If you want to know truly what's next and you're willing to put in the effort, I guess I would say that too. I'm not trying to say, oh, you have to be the cream of the crop or that this is some sort of graduate program at some kind of university. I'm trying to say, if you're truly focused on you and you can see yourself putting in the work and getting to that next step, then PSA is the right place to be.
I completely I completely agree with that. There's so much out there too, especially with the rise of AI, and after the pandemic, even about universities versus certification versus all of these things. And do you have to have every single requirement to make it? And I definitely think that there's people that have checked all the boxes, have all the things, but they may not be asking enough questions of themselves or digging into their own self-awareness to understand more about people outside of the processes. So I've always appreciated the more curious types that are willing to ask the questions and go the distance and keep digging because that shows a different level of initiative that I think is important. So,
Yep, I love that.
so I'd
Right
like
on.
to talk a little bit about, I know a lot of the AI journey started with Corbo Tech, but I'd love for you to talk more about how AI is helping both practitioners and students with their success. And of course, this is framing it with using AI ethically, but using it to really build on skills. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm going to take this a step back and I may, I'll speak anecdotally, but there were articles published back in May of 2025 and now even recently in November. So if I go back to May, I believe it was Microsoft, maybe even Oracle to some degree, they had those large layoffs. And honestly, it was middle management. It wasn't just project management, but project management was hit. I know Paycom is another big provider. Um, they had some layoffs early in the year as well, and now later in the season here, we saw layoffs with Amazon, UPS, and some of the others. And so these large corporations are anticipating that AI and related automations are supposed to cover the gap that was created. Back to that article in May, I would need to look it up. Almost within the same breath or within the same day, Microsoft touts the layoffs, which one might imagine could make shareholders happy because it reduces operational expense. And then they follow it up with an $8 billion investment in AI over the next X years. Again, I'll say I'm certainly not quoting that 100% accurately, but the concept is there. And when the big companies like Microsoft and AWS and others do that, it's not uncommon for other agencies to follow suit in the marketplace. And so I think many of us at this point, here we are, end of 2025, are feeling, the weight of either regrettably being released from our employ or fearing that that could happen. That there's some concept of, do people still need middle management? Do people still need project management? So I share that sort of trend in the past because it's going to shape the future. We are at an inflection point. In fact, we were before people started making promises to shareholders and to the marketplace about saving money and being efficient. Project management is actually at the doorstep of a very exciting time. Yes, we're disaffected. Yes, we don't know if people value us. They have no idea how much value we bring. Heck, we had problems with people even knowing what a project manager is or what a project manager does before this whole AI and the layoffs and the automation thing. But I think what we're really going to experience these coming years, and I'm thrilled that PSA is going to help professionals get here, is automating the majority of the task-based portions of our job. Let me give you an example. When I first started project management, and we're talking early 2000s, what I was most excited about was, here's this supervisor, this director, this vice president, looking at some 20-year-old saying, all right, kid, I need you to have this replaced in the data center and go live in 2 months. Here's your team. Here's the schedule. Go make it happen. And here's a couple $1,000,000. What a privilege. What a responsibility, right? It was the most exciting thrill I'd had from being, just a desk jockey code developer to now leading an initiative to upgrade some of the equipment in the data center. And so projects were exciting, but it really quick, and we all know this, you're going to get bogged down with not enough communication, stakeholders who are dissatisfied, blockers, scheduling problems, regulatory problems, resource availability, people and money and equipment, deliveries not coming in on time. You start running into all of the things, but you'd spend a lot of your time, what's your status? Let me update the schedule. Oh, let me take more meeting notes. Oh, let me send on another email. Oh, let me schedule another. Let me do another action item review. Let's do another post-session review. Let's do a schedule update. Let's do a change control. Now, all those things still need to happen, and we still need to do them, but more and more of that's going to become automated. And when that used to be 80, 90% of my day as a project leader, and only 10% was working on the what if scenarios, or how can we do it better, faster, smarter, safer, or creative problem solving with the leaders, or even better, get this, me not wasting the time of my data team or my developers, right? Or my change managers or my trainers, because Ben, quit bugging me. I can't do my job because you're always bugging me about what's the status, what's your status, what's your status. If all that can be automated with this up and coming technology, that leaves us taking that 10%, turning it to 50%, maybe even 80% of being a collaborator, a creative problem solver, a facilitator, an owner of the strategy becoming reality. I like to think of it as the future of project managers being an executive's best friend. Imagine being on the right shoulder of your favorite executive, being that advisor, that vizier that can talk about corrective action almost real time, can talk about what to do with the extra money when you finish early. I'm looking forward to those days. But in the meantime, I'm looking forward to making that a reality for the next generation of project practitioners.
I love that. I think that's a great answer. So, I have to say, a lot of the automated tasks helps me out a lot. And even just using AI creatively, you know. So one thing, and I'm going to say something, I'll get your opinion on this. I tell people a lot of times to talk to AI like a human rather than all of the perfect prompting strategies to dig deeper, and that some of them can even teach them how to talk to stakeholders because we've always encountered those stakeholders that you ask a surface question, you get a surface answer, and then you have to
Yeah.
drill down into the five whys continually. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why? Do you think that AI actually has the capacity, if talked to as a human and just in those language terms, to really train people on future ideas on how to ask questions to stakeholders?
So I do think it's very likely that that natural language experience is coming. I think it needs to be built, backed, and even coached by the humans behind that experience.
Right.
Um, I do like that option. I mean, I myself have played with, if you have Gemini or something, you can have a chat with AI or Chat GPT even today and sort of dialogue back and forth. But I don't think it replaces, um, you know, not just the human expertise or maybe even specifically industry or line of business expertise. All of those, of course, would remain valuable.
Agreed.
I think we need to be careful about the importance of human community and relationships as well. Just because I can logically have a conversation with the device, no different than if I, in the old days, were running a Google search or if I was updating contract terms, reading through PDFs. Now that's much more user friendly. I think the future of that's much more user friendly. I think there's a part of us um, that really genuinely does need human connection. There's an energy and emotion with people. We talk about storytelling. You did a good job about bringing up the importance of story. Again, was it the campfire effect, right? I think we need
Right.
that connection too. I'm not necessarily yet convinced that an AI sort of chat counterpart or conversation tool of sorts is necessarily going to fill that gap. It may trigger ideas. Um, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question. I think directionally that kind of tech is possible. We just need to be careful that um, it's not. I don't think any one tool can do everything, right? Even auto drive cars aren't a human driving, no matter how smart it gets or any of those things. The existence of the car, for the most part, is for and about the human. It's either getting people somewhere or getting stuff to humans.
Right.
Um, and I'd like to think the same for any tech that applies in project management. We need to boil it down to, well, why am I even doing the project in the first place? All these tools are neat and whatnot, and it's helping me solve problems. But is it really focused on that original core value prospect or that need that we're trying to elevate or deliver? What's the purpose of the project? Um, I just don't see that even in the future. Just saying, okay, agent, chatbot, go do this project. Um, I think even if it technically could, I still don't think that's the right thing to do. I think, like an auto drive car, you'd still want humans involved. You still want them in the car. If that make we're the
Right.
reason for the journey. Am I making any sense?
That does make perfect sense. So thank you. I know that was a little bit of a wayward question.
No, it's hard to predict where the tech will go. But even if we assumed it went all the way, I still don't think it's enough. I guess is my answer.
Pivoting in a slightly different direction, beyond certification training like PMP, CAPM, the risk management and all of that, what other topics do you see Project Success Academy continuing to elevate or moving towards in the future? Like even specifically as we head into 2026, can you help to paint some of that vision on where you see it going?
Oh man, I'm never good at keeping secrets, Tanya. You're going to get me in trouble with some of this stuff. Um, yeah, it's very, very exciting. So again, Corbo is a technology forward project success consulting firm and educator. And so, as you might suppose, there will be a lot of opportunity for um, students within PSA to experience AI focused project practitioner learning, if you will. I'm not trying to spoil it. There's something in the works around the future of not just AI and project management. We're looking at lab work. We're looking at product focused learning that will make project, you and I were just talking about what if a project management tool could do this. Those tools are coming. Wouldn't you want to be surfing that wave instead of behind that wave and have to paddle in, right? And that's a bad example, but if I'm in the water, I want to ride the wave. I don't want to have to use all my energy to paddle, right? So wouldn't you want to be a part of kind of the forefront of understanding those tools, having those in your arsenal? They don't apply to every project, right? We don't use every tool for every project, right? We're not looking for a
Correct.
nail for a hammer unless that's the right tool for the job. But wouldn't it be neat to have that in your toolkit? So some things around that, but even beyond that, we have some opportunities to work with some of the upcoming governance and standards around AI and AI ethics. That's a big deal. Wouldn't you want to go to your directors, your vice presidents, your stakeholders, to your PMO and be like, oh no, this is where the regulatory is going to be. This is where the law is and how we comply. And here's how the tools automate that audit, all of those things. Wouldn't you want to be the valuable project manager or the valuable PMO lead or program manager that already knows that stuff, right? How would that look on your dossier, your resume? How would that look the next steering committee you have with executives, right? And so I'm sort of cheating a little bit, but a lot of 2026 is actually career focused. And what I mean by that is in this new age, this inflection point of using technology to our advantage to be self-actualized as advisors and frankly, the executive's best friend, that's really where our focus is going to be. How can I get professionals who are maybe coming out of the military into a project management role? Knowing the PMBOK is just the beginning. The analogy I like to use is just because I know how to cook a hamburger doesn't mean maybe that's the right technique or capability for my given project. What if the project is my daughter's wedding? Does she want hamburgers served to 80 wedding guests? Maybe not. Maybe we want to instead not just know how to cook, but the right resources, the right people, the right scope, the right quality. What's that whole experience, that valuable experience supposed to be? And so even if you're a PM or you come in at senior PM or program manager or portfolio manager or even executive, right? We're actually going to be releasing career path learning for those of us that may or may not always stay in project management. Maybe you're meant to lead a department. Maybe you're the vice president of projects and programs. Maybe you're looking to become COO or something like that. All of the skills that you pick up across multiple lines of business while running complex integrated programs and projects, that's, believe it or not, that gives you the capabilities to play in a leadership space as well. You don't have to stay in projects your whole life. So we're going to be looking specifically at what makes not just the project management career path, whether it's PM, program manager, portfolio manager, executive leader, PMO leader, or beyond. It's what's relevant today to get you to those paths. And a lot of that might be technology forward. It'll be regulatory forward. It'll be understanding the intricacies of integrated business, lines of business, finances, compliance, quality, regulatory, things like that. And so we're looking to avail real world, real job type learning beyond just the book smart stuff. Is that what you're hoping to answer?
Actually, yes. You probably spilled some secrets there, but that's okay. Just
Probably,
kidding.
yeah.
So, no, but I agree with that very fully because I guess I relate to that story that there was a lot of industries, a lot of different skills that were picked up within different industries that operate very differently. But at this point in my career, that is an that's an asset, but in human resource terms, I am probably more of a career lattice person that goes out with my skills rather than just being focused on the uphill journey for the career ladder.
Right.
Because I think that there is some sort of a risk in today's environment with just trying to climb the ladder. And the risk is if you get too high in current environments, there might be a strong wind, Whereas if you're a skills-based person and you're diversifying different complementary skill bases, you may have more opportunities to go laterally and then up that way, which
Right.
I think is good, especially in a changing economy and with all of the changes that AI has brought. So, well, I know we are getting close to time. So, we've covered a lot of different information here, but I want to round out with one thing. What does success look like for Project Success Academy in terms of impact and not just revenue? And how do we plan to measure that to continue to grow and be a force for good in this project management space?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I think Project Success Academy is bigger than just a place to learn. The vision over the next 2, 3 years is for Project Success Academy to be the first hit that comes up when you ask ChatGPT, what's the next step in my career? Or, my boss needs me to save XYZ $1 million in the next 3 months on my program. I understand it's not meant to replace tools, but what if we were that ecosystem, that hub, that community that you could just like start with Project Success Academy? I bet they know somebody that knows someone related to Scrum, right, or to Safe Agile Safe, or they have a pathway to Neuroplan certification if you're neuropsychology in the application of estimating, for example, or overcoming bias in your projects. Or maybe it's excellence in communication. Maybe it's a one-stop shop to get some quick insights on career coaching or career elevation. Maybe it's how to use certain AI tools, or maybe it's to become a trainer. Um, we want it to be that hub of continuous improvement for the ecosystem of practitioners. And it would work as an ally, as a complement to existing agencies that are tried and true. So PMI, huge partner with PMI, alignment with ProSci, alignment with IIBA if you're in the business analyst space. But if we become sort of this central hub, this central community of consistent improvement and learning, strong networks specific to project practitioners now. Certainly, I could go to LinkedIn, broaden my network there, find jobs there. But wouldn't it be great specifically to come to a place where everybody speaks my language specifically, where I can talk about work and using the education, the academics in my real workplace, right? And again, I'm not, these other agencies do offer that within reason, but I don't think they're going to be as high touch and as personal as what we see PSA be, right? We genuinely see it being the on the edge, the evolving, community driven academic experience, right? Um, yeah, so my vision again is just make it that easy first stop community to find your career success so that we can all become effective, very potent project practitioners.
I think that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this time that you've spent today. So,
Fun.
and I'm looking forward to the next section.
It'll be great. Thanks, Tanya. I appreciate you. That was a lot of fun.